Hello, everyone. Hello, Fightful fans. Welcome to the Predictions Show. And this time it is AEW Full Gear, and I am joined by Tyler Sage from Brass Ring Media at Ring of Tyler. Tyler, how are you?
I'm very good. How are you, Steph?
I'm great. Thank you. Thank you for
Yeah,
joining me. Let's
yeah,
make
no
it
problem.
let's make it clear that the at Ring of Tyler comes from Ring of Honor, not Brass Ring Media. But that's
Correct.
worked out quite well for you.
Yeah. I mean, maybe not the name, but yeah. So it's when I started covering Ring of Honor. We're on a new platform. Very excited for you, first and
Mm.
foremost, being here, but excited to be on Fightful myself. But yeah, covered Ring of Honor for PW Torch when I broke into the business. So I've always kept the handle as a reminder that we all start writing weekly summaries about products nobody watches to get into this business. So happy to be here and keep that to keep
That
yourself
is
motivated.
very true. Well, like Ring of Honor itself, you are invading an AEW show, so I think it's pretty fitting.
There you go.
Well, we have Full Gear this weekend on Saturday. This will be the first Full Gear in 2 years that I haven't been to. I'm not even sad about it though. I don't know. I was going to go and then I decided not to. And instead, if you're looking for me, I will be at Dynamite next week in Chicago, and I will be at WWE Survivor Series, first ever
Wow.
American WWE pay-per-view. So that's big, but I just felt like LA would, because I always like to do the Thanksgiving Chicago, and I thought LA
Mhm.
just took me like too far out of it. But yeah, so my excitement level for this show is excited, but not enough to actually attend, not enough to keep my full gear streak going.
Mm.
How are you feeling going into full gear?
I was in a similar boat, so I do
Mhm.
for Brass Ring Media as my thing with Zach Hadorn, who was formerly the Torch. We also do a show
Yep.
for SE Scoops, so not to just promote all the stuff that everybody's doing, but on
And
that
we've
show
had
this
Zach
past
on
Tuesday.
here.
Oh yes, for sure.
Mhm.
The I compared and contrasted this card with the 2019, which is the first full gear ever,
Mhm.
and it was not a good comparison for 2019. I
Mhm.
would look for anyone. A couple singles matches to include was Orange Cassidy taking on John Silver in a singles match on a pay per view. We also had Sean Spears taking on Joey Janela in a singles match on a pay per view. So
Right.
there's some good stuff on there as well. There's the lights out match between Moxley and Omega, stuff like that. But I compared it to when I think most people could get this analogy. When you first start dating somebody,
Yeah.
it's like everything's great. You don't really do anything that all of our bad habits, right?
Yeah.
You don't do any of those. You hide all of that. And then when you're like living together or you got kids, I mean, you just have the door open in the bathroom half the time, right? And that's kind of where we are, I think, as a fan base that's been, I mean, you and I have both been, I would say, diehard AEW fans since the
Yeah.
beginning and have kind of been in that AEW versus WWE thing, even though we're unbiased journalists.
Yeah.
We would prefer to watch live AEW stuff, go to live AEW shows.
Yeah.
Um, so I just think we're in that point in the relationship where this card looks great when you compare it to 2019. I would just encourage everyone to do the two Wikipedia tabs next to each other and
Mhm.
just look at the talent you have on one versus the other. Just that sort of thing. Plus the we're all set in stone on this AEW, the way they build things. And, there's really no build, but the show's awesome. So that's just how I think it's going to be. I think it's going to be a great 4 hours plus of a show. And there's going to be a lot of good wrestling. It's not going to really affect anything I watch Wednesday on Dynamite or the next
Yeah.
Saturday on Collision. And that just kind of is where I am as a fan.
Yeah, I think where I am is the pay-per-views are always good. They always put on really good matches, but like I don't know what it would take for them not to have good matches with the level of talent that they have. It would have to be a disaster. So the pay-per-views are always going to be good, but it's definitely like the week to week storytelling everything, like all the Discord, you see online. I think most of us, we each have our individual complaints about AEW, and even if they're all different, it's just very significant that there's this many complaints right now, because that didn't used to be the way. Derek in the chat says that Full Gear is going to be the first AEW pay-per-view he's not going to order. Even if the show has good matches, I don't care about the results. That's not a way you want your fans to be. But I'm hoping it's a really good show. I'm hoping like it's a bit of a reset, because I do think the past couple of months, like, not to be like too doom and gloom, but I think the past couple of months have been the worst I've seen of AEW. And that's not saying there hasn't been good wrestling. I'm talking about everything outside of two wrestlers in the ring together has been like a disappointment for me. Like a lot of storylines, angles, characters, business decisions, shall we say. It's been a rough couple of months, I think, to be an AEW fan. One of my friends said that Allin at Wembley felt like a season finale, and now we're at the difficult next season where you're like, should we have continued?
Yeah, or to continue my analogy from earlier, it's like when you're thinking about breaking up with somebody, but you got like a big trip planned. You're like, I'll break up with them after we get back from the trip. And you like kind of had fun while you were there, but then you get back home. Yeah. And it's like, oh yeah, I'm going to break up with them. I'm over this. So not that we're breaking up with AEW, but
no, the thing is, like, I don't want to break up. For me, the analogy would be like, if I was with like my dream human being, and I think now I would be at the stage of the relationship where I'm like, nobody's perfect. He's not the man I thought he was, but I'm in deep now. I think
minus Daniel Garcia.
Yeah. And Daniel Garcia is your dream man? Is that what you're saying?
I think he's yours, but that's a deep cut in the Stephanie lore.
That is a deep cut in Stephanie lore. I definitely, you know what? Like, let's be honest. Let's have some uncensored chat. I don't know if I would say that Daniel Garcia is my dream man or like my dream son. I don't know if my instinct towards him is that way, or if it's like a motherly thing where I just want to take him aside and be like, look, son, I really feel your pain, and I hope you have someone to talk to, and I see big things in your future, But anyway, hey, we're here for predictions, as Vasco says. We're here for predictions, and let's get into it. And you guys in the chat, if you want to support the stream, send in the super chat. I'd really appreciate it. I'll read out whatever you have to say on air. But tell us what your predictions are for all these matches, because we have stated AEW pay-per-views are always awesome. It's fine to complain. It's fine to have opinions. But the pay-per-views always do deliver, and whatever, it's fun to talk about them. Let's get in. Shall we start the 0 hour, as seems logical?
Sure, let's do it.
All right, Ring of Tyler, the Ring of Honor Tag Team Championship. We've got MJF and TBA, one of my favorite wrestlers, TBA, versus the Guns. So we've got two questions for this one. Who is MJF's partner, and who's going to be the winner? So, well, actually, I'll ask you first. Why does he need a partner? Because he didn't need one against the Righteous.
Well, yeah. So the Righteous are ROH talents, right? And I think we've seen the last couple of weeks of AEW that Ring of Honor has been relegated to the developmental brand that no one cares about from a booking perspective, like the fans thought about it, right? So the Righteous fit into that category of AEW World Champion is better than two low-level guys on Ring of Honor from a straight kayfabe booking perspective. The Guns are Jay White's underlings, and if he's going to be a real competition, you can't be beating both of them clean and keep them because you have plans for them, etc. So, right, that's the kayfabe mixed with the reality of the situation, right?
The answer is just like, it sucks for the Righteous, but yeah.
So, both are very nice gentlemen as well in real life. So it is unfortunate. I felt very bad for both of them when that happened, because it was about the end of their career within mainstream AEW. From the opponent standpoint, I don't know if you would agree, but I think it certainly has to be Samoa Joe, just based on how the story has been told. But let me know if you think of anyone different than that.
I think it's going to be Joe. I think like that's what we're leading to. He's going to trust Joe. Whether or not that serves him well, I'm not sure. I don't think so. I don't think I trust Samoa Joe. But, we've seen MJF hold these Ring of Honor tag team belts since All In. So it's been a couple months of him defending these and then sometimes defending the World Championship on the pay-per-view. I think it was Wrestle Dream where he defended the tag team belts instead of the World Championship. I personally, my prediction is that the Gunns win. I think it's time for MJF to drop these belts. I think that the World's End show in Long Island is going to be a big show for MJF. And I think the next couple weeks leading into that, it'd be better to see him more focused than, having the burden of these Ring of Honor titles. The Gunns are former AEW Tag Team Champions. So I think they're going to win, whether they win clean or whether they win due to their own interference or Samoa Joe does something dirty to MJF. I'm not sure, but my prediction is we see the Gunns as Ring of Honor champions.
I agree. If I can get the exact finish as a guess, I think Joe probably takes out the Gunns and then chokes out MJF and then puts the Gunns on top of MJF or something like that. And then that would set up why MJF would want to then have a match with Joe because he's even more so than the world title. I mean, I think this recent week you would change your opinion on this, but I would say like 3 weeks ago, these belts seem to mean more because of his relationship with Adam Cole and the world title does, which is a problem. I think they've rectified that a little bit, but like losing Cole's belt for him, and could tell other stories, obviously, but losing those belts is important to him, and that will make him want to face Joe in the title match. Babyface, be like, yes, Joe, you're on. I'm going to fight you at World's End in Long Island, all that stuff. So,
yeah. All right, well, there you go. The Gunns are winning the Ring of Honor Tag Team Championship. Let's move on to the main card. Of course, I'm sure Tony will add something else on to the pre-show or whatever. Like, we're looking at 9 matches here, and that seems, a little less than usual. But let's go with the AEW Women's Championship. We've got Hikaru Shida versus Timeless Toni Storm. Bit of a controversial character, shall I say? Timeless Toni Storm. Do you think this match is going to be in black and white?
I don't. It would. I mean, they've had the when the door opened on Wednesday where it went to black and white. I like that little touch. It makes me think like if she was in control, you could switch it where it's black and white when she's in control and then when it's not. But that would be, I think, too far. You'd be jumping the shark on the gimmick if you did that. So entrance, but I think match is in living color, so to say.
How do you feel about the Toni Storm character? For me, like, I'll be honest, I liked it at the beginning. And I think it went in too far into stuff that is not personally for me. I think like the introduction of Luther, like as the butler, I think some of the skits just went like a little too far, and even doing the black and white gimmick, it's just become a little bit much for my taste. I did think I don't know if you heard Tony on the call yesterday. This seems to be Tony's pet project. If we're wondering who came up with it seems to be Tony Khan. So they're going to go far with this, which makes me think that it might be in black and white. I do think seeing the match in black and white would be cool to see. I'm not sure if it's like I'd actively like it, but I would be like, that's a cool effect. And at least it wouldn't run it for the live crowd, like when they did red lights in WWE. Like at least for the live crowd, I guess it would look normal. But I think the thing about Shida is I think that Shida is like one of the best women in the roster, and this isn't her first go around with the women's championship. And I think that from my experiences with her, like interviewing her twice, including once in person, she's someone that is working so hard to be the top woman in this division. Like her, like presentation, learning English, everything, and like she's putting so much into it. But I just feel like they're never going to let her take that position, that she always seems to be like the champion that they don't really do much with. But another person we have to talk about, as Marcus mentioned here, Mariah May. We saw Mariah May debut 2 weeks ago. Last week, when she got to meet Toni Storm, she said that, if you ever need anything, let me know. And I think that's an interesting hint going towards the match. And it's very cool to see Mariah on TV. She's someone that I used to work with down at Rev Pro. So it's just awesome, to see some great UK talent on AEW. So, okay, after that rambling, I will give my prediction. My prediction is that Toni Storm loses because Mariah messes up in some way unintentionally to kind of continue their storyline of Mariah chasing after her, I'm so sorry, I'm your biggest fan, please, what can I do to make this up to you type thing, leading to a rematch down the line. But let's hear your thoughts, Tyler. I've rambled enough.
No, you're good. So on the character, the Tony Khan being in control of the character, you just taught me, so thank you for that. I did not know that. So it tells me he's a big movie buff, old Hollywood, because this character,
I am too. So it's I feel like it should be made for me, but
So I guess for the audience, right? This is based on Norma Desmond is the character from Sunset Boulevard, which is a fantastic movie. It's from 1950, but don't let that scare you. It's a tremendous movie, murder mystery, all that sort of stuff. So she's got a butler, just like the Luther character is the butler, and there's the other character is someone who's trying to glom on to her. She's a silent movie star who couldn't make it in the talkies, right? It's kind of the name of that. Look up the Wikipedia for everybody out there if you want to get a plot synopsis. But there's another character that comes in and tries to kind of glom on or take advantage of that. So I don't know if that's Mariah, and that's it doesn't turn out well for that character, I guess. Spoiler alert for a 70-year-old movie. But if you're doing that story, I think that's interesting. I also would love someone interviewing Tony Khan to ask if he's a huge movie buff, because I like this character a lot because I'm a huge movie buff.
Yeah.
And I think the character can grow and develop. I'd be super interested if Toni Storm does this for a while and then is the next era, if she's a Marilyn Monroe type, right? She's a Jane Fonda type, if you're a Barbarella or something. Right? It'd be great. So who is that for? That's for me. It sounds like it might be for you, but not for everybody, right? So is that a main event talent? I mean, it is because it's Toni Storm, right? So, and everything you said about Shida, I completely agree with. It just seems like if you're a North American booker for talent, Japanese people that can speak totally fine English just have a cap for some reason, and people are scared to push them. So I think Shida should retain. I do think Toni Storm is going to win because of everything you mentioned there. She's getting the big push, the big character. It can then put you against Saraya and Ruby, and if Britt wants to do anything, if Jamie Hayter's coming back, right? If she's going to be that heel character, you can get past that. But you need a heel to get all. If Jamie comes back, if Britt's going to do something, those are better matchups than Shida, who's going to be going against who. There's not a ton of great heels lined up in the women's division at the moment too. So for that reason, or if they just do a rematch now that AEW has pay-per-views every month, it's more likely than it was in the past, where whoever won a title, you had to really think of who's that TV match and who's the next pay-per-view match. And now it's kind of you're going to have a big match every month if you have a big title. So I'm going to go Tony is the moral of the story.
Well, we have disagreed on that one. In the chat, it's kind of 50-50. I've seen for Toni. I miss Jamie Hayter too, Marcus. It feels like she's been out forever. It's not actually been that long though. I remember seeing her at Double or Nothing, I think is where it happened just before that. Vass, he wants Shida to win. And Fernando says that Toni's going to win with help from her new understudy, Mariah, and start a new faction. So let's move on to Sting, Darby Allin, Adam Copeland with Ric Flair versus Christian Cage, Luchasaurus, and Nick Wayne. All right, Tyler, how do you feel about this one? How do you feel that Adam Copeland has inserted himself into AEW now from the past pay-per-view to now? Like, how's he done?
Well, first of all, I just want to say I love the Ric Flair stunt. No, I'm just kidding. That's a joke. To come off hot off the top rope. Yeah, I mean, Copeland has he's appeared And I'm a diehard Dynamite viewer,
Right.
and I may usually watch Collision on delay when I tape it, right? So I feel like he's been more on Collision recently than Dynamite, right? And I feel like he's gotten the classic AEW push when you first premiere, where you big for 2 weeks and then you kind of merge into traffic, and maybe in 3 months he'll have a big match again, just like everybody before him. Jay White, every big sign for that, Christian and Cole and Danielson and Punk. I mean, I guess not Punk, but so that's where I feel he is. This is a appropriate first match for him. I don't want him to spend forever taking on Christian, because he just turned 50. It's like we have both those guys forever, but I think it's fine for here. But he's been, I would say, underwhelmingly used. I don't think he's really had the opportunity to do a ton. But yeah, I've been underwhelmed by his appearance thus far in AEW.
I feel the same. I mean, he's not someone I would have brought in, but like I understand Tony's team Edge as a free agent and being like, we got to bring Edge. It's not something I would have done. Like Christian for me was the highlight of AEW until Edge came in. And that's not to say that Christian's currently not good, but I think he was on, such a great storyline, such a great like run. And now we've got Edge kind of inserting himself in here, like, hey, old friend, you're evil now, and Edge just isn't someone that I can get behind. And then we're mixing this all in with Sting now being on like countdown to retirement. We got Ric Flair there, go check out my video about Ric Flair if you want to know my thoughts on that. I'm not gonna attach them to fight a Fightful stream here. But so, and I think that the stuff between Christian and Nick Wayne had been really good too, but Adam Copeland just seems like a square peg or something in this whole great thing that we had going on. And I know that he said in an interview not long after he signed that, it's going to be a long drawn out thing before me and Christian had a match. And initially they were doing the whole like, I'll never fight you thing, but then literally a week later he was like, no, actually, like we'll get in the 6-man match. And I'm just like, I would rather get this Edge and Christian stuff over with, like at this point. And I think that like he has not been on Dynamite much. He's been more in Collision, and I totally understand building up Collision. They're having a lot of problems. We know that, but I can only imagine how much Edge is getting paid from AEW. Like when I compare it to what I know other people are getting paid, and I think if you're gonna spend that much on a guy, I would want to have him on Dynamite. But the problem is he's over 50 and hasn't really done anything that's, I think within a week it was like, okay, Edge is here. So I don't know. That was very down on Edge, but he's just not like fitting in. Like the greatly named burner account says Edge is just in the way. And you know what? He kind of is. And Marcus is Christian's most underrated wrestler in history. He's one of the most underrated wrestlers. He really gets the best out of everyone he works with. So, with that said, I think that the winners have to be Sting, Darby Allin, and Adam Copeland, don't they? Because one of them's Edge and the other one's on his retirement tour.
Yeah, it just depends how long it's going to go, right? Because this feels like a great opportunity for heels to win a match that sets up to other stuff. Sets up the singles match of Christian and Edge. I guess you can do that either way, right? Of Darby and Nick Wayne as a singles match. And I guess even Sting and Darby versus Luchasaurus and Nick Wayne's a more reasonable match to come out of this. But even then, it's like, you don't want Copeland and Christian going for the TNT title. That doesn't make any sense, I don't think. So for that reason, you would think the faces would win in this whole thing, and then you kind of loop back around to Christian and Edge, but it just doesn't seem like that's the trajectory. Like this will happen, they'll win, and then it's over. It feels to me more like the booking is going to the heels win underhandedly at this type of match. Darby eats the pin probably because he's the one out of those three to eat the pin. And then you get to something that's more segmented in this group where you get who knows who's going to be in this tournament, this G1 clone.
Yeah.
Is our Edge and Christian both going to be in that and they're in the final maybe? And that's how you get them to fight. And it's not for the TNT title. That doesn't seem like a great use of all the talent on that roster for those two to come out of each block, but it could happen. It just feels like there's more to this after this point. So for that reason, I'm going to go with the heels, getting the win here underhandedly to then lead things on down the line. I would hope that the baby faces would win so we can all move on. And like you said, we can get Edge, Sting doing their own thing, and we can get Christian and Edge. I want Christian talking about somebody's dad, not Copeland's dad, and I want Copeland taking on whoever. So Ricky Starks or Powerhouse Hobbs or Swerve, something like that. Some good feud he's gonna help build a younger talent up. So we'll see, but I'm gonna go with the heels.
Okay, let's see if we can find one we can agree on then. There's 2 women's matches on this card. That's big for AEW. So let's do the next one. For the TBS Championship, Chris Statlander versus Julia Hart versus Sky Blue. Okay, I think Chris Statlander, I don't think this has been a great reign. It was going to be hard to follow Jade just because of the length, but I think Chris is great, but they kind of haven't figured out what to do with her, or they also, don't give her enough time to really explain herself. That's kind of always been the problem. She's got quite a wacky personality, but they never just give her those minutes to actually let us into it. Sky Blue is on television every single show. It's a lot, but Julia Hart, I think, is one of the most improved people on the roster, not just in the women's division. It's a great package. It's a fully realized character, which is definitely not what you can say for everyone. And she's on TV a lot as well. The fans are really behind her. I'm picking and I'm hoping for Julia Hart. What about you, Tyler?
Yes, Julia Hart for sure. Can I agree with you more on both Statlander and Sky Blue? Statlander just doesn't get I guess of all the people that get relative time on TV, she's the one that I have no idea what her character is post being an alien. She just comes out there and is kind of the most athletic girl at your high school that is kind of bullying you, but is a good guy. That's the closest thing I could tell you of what that character is, which is not good all the way around for multiple reasons. But just they haven't done anything with her. I don't think Tony has faith in her as a champion or wants to put her on TV like he does Sky Blue, as an example. And obviously the whole Miss story is interesting there. I think it's very telling. She was wearing the Scooby-Doo ring gear on Wednesday. It's hey, I paid for this. I'm about to turn heel, so I better wear it, is kind of what I was thinking, because it felt totally out of nowhere. But I think she helps Julia defeat Statlander. Is maybe not subservient, but that mist and her controlling Sky Blue, I think would be interesting. And that's what you can do as a heel and Julia Hart as a character, at least controlling people to help her win, maybe not palling around with her.
Yeah.
But Julia Hart, to me, is easily has the most upside of any woman on the roster from just how she's grown in the ring, but just her character and how she gets a crowd response.
Yeah.
That is not easy to do, so you cannot lose it. And they've really tried to lose it because she's been cool for a year plus, and they haven't really done a ton with her. I think maybe now she's improved in the ring, but I think Julia wins here, a new era with the TBS title. Get her, she's as close to must-see TV in the women's division. I think her and Tony's mind would be those dynamic characters that tell those stories, if I had to guess what Tony's thinking. So I'm going to go with Julia Hart. We agree. If not, I think this is one of the first of a couple opportunities for Tony to make some bad booking decisions if he does not go with Julia in this moment.
Absolutely. I think it's Julia. It'd be very interesting to see what happens once she wins it, because she is on TV a lot. There is quite a bit of focus on her. And if she ends up becoming one of those champions that doesn't get much TV time and you don't see much after winning, that will be a really bad sign, because she's certainly been one of the vocal points the past couple months. And yeah, I pretty much the whole chat has Julia, and absolutely loves Julia. Like, she's really over with everyone. She's so improved. Her character's so cool. I love her wardrobe. It's very me. I gotta support a fellow blonde goth all the way.
There you go.
Next, do you want to talk about your guy, Jon Moxley, who's taking on Orange Cassidy for the International Championship? This is a weird one, obviously, because stuff happened. Moxley getting a concussion, then title going to Penta, all of that. How do you think this has been built up? Because I know Jon Moxley is like your kind of measuring stick for things, and Moxley wouldn't do it. You're not into it. So how has his build up with Orange Cassidy been for you?
Yeah, it's been, up and down just based on the concussion and the rain. They go into Penta, then back to Cassidy, right? That's all kind of a mess to get to this point, because for some reason, this was always on the books, and you would think that Moxley was going to be the champion, and Cassidy was going to come in and be like, hey, I had a great run, but I need to beat you. Mm-hmm. So I think they're trying to tell that same story, which leads me obviously to, I think, the same direction. But yes, like for everyone that doesn't know, just a quick thing, like I think if you're Tony Khan and you had any story, right? Let's say it's Kota Ibushi on a bicycle with a fake pipe, and he's going to ride down the ramp and hit people with it. Is that a good idea? No. Then you don't have it in the show. Should I have Paul White in this match? No. So you don't have it in the show. Should I destroy this Hyundai that we've rented and hopefully the insurance is covered with Paul White getting smashed on it? Maybe. That's kind of fun. So it's like all that sort of stuff is like through the prism of what Jon Moxley would think works or doesn't work in wrestling. So that's what you referenced there. But I think that just like Wheeler Yuta, I don't know, a year and a half ago, whenever he joined BCC, I think in a loss here, I think Cassidy can still be elevated. And I think this is very key for like what you do with him. Because I think not having this title is a better thing for Orange Cassidy long term, because he can move on and do the kind of classic WWE where you lose and then get bumped up the card. And I think him being part of the, what is it called, the Collision or the Continental Classic? Is that what the G1 thing in AEW is called?
Yes.
Okay.
Classic.
So it's kind of a word salad name, but I think Cassidy has to be a part of that. It has to have a really good showing and work a ton of good matches against good wrestlers. And Moxley keeping that title elevated, I think, is important in what Tony Khan wants to do, putting a belt around him while he's not really doing anything in the main event. So for all those reasons, I think Jon Moxley is going to get the win here against Cassidy, and then he can get to, again, like maybe a third match down the line where Cassidy does eventually overcome him and kind of becomes hardcore Cassidy, whatever it's going to be. But I have Moxley here.
Yeah, I think that this little period has, since, he had the title at Great Run and losing it, has been just really great watching Orange Cassidy like evolve. I think this is like the most evolving he's done. I think there was a period right at the beginning where we thought he had evolved and he like hadn't really, but that whole having to prove himself every week with the title was amazing. Unfortunate, like the bumps in the road of whatever the creative they were doing. But yeah, I think that I can see Cassidy going into the tournament and having more like proving himself moments in that tournament. He will be like a great baby face in it, and so forth. So yeah, I think that sorry, I was just reading a comment. I think it's going to be Jon Moxley. And I think we get Cassidy in the tournament and Moxley taking the belt here. And whatever was planned originally for Moxley, maybe we pick that up. Because I think there's a lot of people on that kind of level of international championship that I'd like to see face Moxley. That, we never got a chance to.
Gotcha. Yeah, no, I agree 100%. And yeah, that's like him being a gatekeeper, but like in a not pejorative way. Like that's usually a bad term in wrestling. And I think Moxley can be that and, just take out a million people, but elevate them in a, I don't know if Moxley opens like Cassidy did every episode, but
Yeah.
you know, there's a million people that you can think of. Even like, let's say Action Andretti in like 3 months randomly opens and they have like a 12-minute banger of a match. Does that elevate Action Andretti in your mind? I mean, they can't go any lower in my mind. So, that would help. But like just as like a random one-off of guys you've never seen, that like
Action Andretti, like it's maybe the like worst example you could have picked. No offense, because like Action Andretti is like a case study of why Toni shouldn't listen to certain wrestlers when they have ideas. It's the story of Action Andretti. But like, I know what you mean. There's lots of people that you could see like Moxley like face. I will say about a month ago, I was actually in Blackpool. And I've always thought the Blackpool Combat Club was like the worst name, like being from the UK. I think like to me, like the name is silly and also like the Regal connection, all of it. And I just was walking around this place like, God, I would love to see Jon Moxley in Blackpool and actually get a taste of what it's like, and then maybe we like consider renaming the faction.
What is Blackpool? What's like an American city comparison? I know you traveled a lot. Is it like a really good place, like a really wealthy place, or a really not great place you don't want to be ever, or somewhere in between? Or
it's like a not great place. It's so it has a pier and it has amusement arcades and stuff like that. If you could think of like maybe
Atlantic City or something.
Yes, with less, like a lot less. like a lot less. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I just feel like, I think Regal, we all know, like, I'm not breaking any news here. Regal's like one of the biggest carnies of all time. And I imagine he's really talked up this city in a way that is just highly inaccurate.
I will put on my list next time I go to the UK. I've done London and Edinburgh, so I'll leave it up.
You should go to see it for yourself, but that's just my UK opinion. Okay, so we both got Moxley on that one. Yes. So next, okay, I don't want to do the one I'm most excited for next. So we're gonna go with the Golden Jets, the great name that everyone uses, Kenny Omega and Chris Jericho versus the Young Bucks, Matt and Nick Jackson. And if the Golden Jets win, then they get the Young Bucks title shot. And if the Young Bucks win, then Omega and Jericho can't team together anymore. So this one, are you like, it's annoyed about it as Young Bucks are?
No, but it's funny to see them. That's like probably not them doing much character work, and like even them on Instagram saying like, "Hey, be thankful. If it wasn't for this, we wouldn't have a match," or something of that effect. Right? It was like what they were posting. It's funny. The stipulations are absolutely unnecessary. Like the Bucks have not cared to invoke this title match that they have, and then Kenny and Jericho have they tagged even together solo? I mean, they did the street fight. Did they have one tag match maybe? Like, it's not a beloved tag team that we all.
It is not a beloved tag team.
So it's really just have the match and have it be like, hey, the Bucks, like this can be saved. Not to get into fantasy booking mode, but this is like when you need to get into fantasy booking mode to make these matches sound interesting. Yeah, is like they've got to join the Don Callis family, like screw over Kenny and do some dastardly stuff. Yeah,
right.
That's like to make this interesting. The only other way is like, oh, what are they? Then they're still friends at the end of this. Like, I think Hangman is way more interesting away from the Elite. I think Kenny can be more interesting away from the Elite. It's maybe not the best right now. The Bucks are kind of the Bucks, no matter what they're doing. Right? They're just kind of there for the matches, and there's really no story. Then we know what we're getting with them week in and week out. So like them coming out and just absolutely obliterating their friend with Don Callis laughing along. And then that group's now Fletcher and Takeshita and the Young Bucks. Like that's a real group. And that's a real menacing group that you can get a lot of stuff out of. And it's like kind of a crazy thing that, you can say it. I can say it on things like this. Do I think it's going to happen? Absolutely not. But if it does happen, I think it's wild and it's a ballsy move with them. And it makes sense why they would be such a-holes all of a sudden for no reason if they were already pre-planning on this. But do I think that's going to happen? I don't think so. I think it's more Kenny and Jericho, I guess, because then you can have a title match with those two. But they have bigger fish to fry than the tag team titles too. So I think they turn heel officially, the Bucks, and join the Callis family because I'm just yearning for some interest in this match.
I just I will be completely honest. Maybe I'll be too honest, and this will be the last stream I ever do. I passionately hate this whole deal that is going on months. I think that the JS was stupid, but we got to the point where it felt like they were going to do something with Garcia. You mentioned me having a motherly instinct for earlier. I know Sammy Guevara is hurt, so we'll put him as a non-factor at the minute. But stuff like that. But instead, Jericho just took this turn where, of course, he wanted to work with Will Ospreay. Now he wants to work with Kenny Omega. Kenny Omega had an awesome thing going on with Takeshita and that feud. Per Takeshita, beaten by Jericho and DDT. Didn't get any revenge during the Sega Street fight last week. Takeshita felt like even more of a prospect than a Garcia, just because they were pushing him harder, it seemed, until Jericho knocked on their door and said, "Can I get into this storyline?" And then because when he was building up the match to Ospreay, he was giving us these massive him and Don history lessons. We were, all that Don Callis Jericho lore that we've been thinking about for 30 years, right? That was wild.
Yeah.
So Kenny and Kenny is one of my all-time favorite wrestlers, not just one of my current favorite wrestlers. And to see him in this tag team, we just want singles Kenny. And there was complaints when he was doing the elite stuff, and instead of going out of it and kind of being his own man against Don Callis, his lifelong mentor uncle that completely screwed him over and took on this younger guy and said I'm done with you, he's better than you, all that stuff. Kenny seems to almost not even be that engaged with that aspect of it and going after Takeshita. Jericho's the one fighting Takeshita in Japan. To me, it's all just a muddled, jumbled mess. You put the Young Bucks in. I don't know what's going on with the Young Bucks, but I think we can say, just looking at what they've done on TV the past year, that either they're not pushing to be heavily involved in the tag division, or the spot's not there for them, or whatever. But there's something going on there, whether or not I'm not saying it's really a malicious thing that's happening, but there's something happening there because they're the Young Bucks and they should be doing a lot more. So yeah, they just ended up in another thing with Kenny, but Kenny has Jericho along with him, and don't even start me on Ibushi being brought into this. He's definitely not the Ibushi of old, but my gosh, if you told me that the Golden Lovers were going to reunite and they were going to bring Jericho along, that's absolutely wild,
Yeah.
For the ladies, I was saying on Twitter, it's if Harry and Louis from One Direction get back together, but they bring Kid Rock for no reason. And you're wow, that doesn't fit, but okay. Yeah. Hope you're getting a nice cut of the merch. But that's the wild, the Paul White thing, it was originally apparently meant to be Sammy, but I also heard it was meant to be Daniel Garcia. But for some reason, they were actually, Paul White would be great in this. And then, he took that big bump. And I mean, I hope he's okay, but he had to do something. He agreed to be in this match, a guy that when I was doing a media thing, everyone had to walk to Paul White so he didn't have to walk around the room. But now he's taking bumps in a car. That's okay. It's just, I don't know. So look, sorry, but I don't have no interest in this match. It's everything that annoys me. And I do think that something happened during the time of All In that like caused a lot of people like in my circle weren't happy with the Jericho getting the Osprey match, and I think it's had like a lot of effects like ricocheting to the point where like this is what we're getting. And I think it's just bizarre that Kenny's like involved in that. I get they're both from Winnipeg. I mean, I'm not going to be teaming up with Fit Finlay, and he's from the same part of the world as me. Like you don't have to do that. You don't have to be with those people.
Yeah.
But I'm just going to pick that. I got to say Kenny and Chris win because Chris has trademarked the name, and he probably has a big t-shirt order put in, and whatever. I think that's gonna happen. I can't remember if you said who you picked or not because I dug myself into I think I got so mad that I literally blacked out. But who do you think will win, Tyler?
Well, this is the first of like thinking what I think should happen. I think you're right. Just look at the trademark, right? That's a big deal. The Bucks don't want to be on TV. They don't want to travel every week, right? That's why they don't do anything, right? Because you get them maybe 2 Dynamites a month if you're Tony Khan and you're not. It definitely seems like there's still some. I don't know why they were re-signed, honestly. With everything you laid out, it seems like they booked their own stuff, Kenny included. But Kenny's a little easier to work with in the Bucks, if I had to guess. So for that reason, I'm going to go with Kenny and Jericho. Jericho hasn't won on a pay-per-view in a long time. That's also another aspect of this.
Yeah.
But it would be awesome if they joined the Callis family and totally ripped the heart of Kenny out in front of them, and the crowd went ape and booed them to oblivion. I think that'd be a top 3 story coming out of the show if they had the cojones to do it. And I don't think the Bucks' faces or being a weird tweener group is doing a lot for them.
Yeah.
I think this would juice them up, and it would give Kenny and Jericho something to do independent of each other. And, sorry, you can still sell the shirts, Chris. You can go outside where the Winnipeg Jets play and do a special night there where everybody gets the T-shirt on the back of their chair.
Sure.
You'll be good to go.
All right. Well, I think it feels like the best thing to do is move on to the tag match after that, because we might one of these guys might have to face Jericho and Omega. So Ricky Starks and Big Bill are the champions. They're going up against, we got Rush and Dralistico, we got FTR, and Kings of the Black Throne. So for me, this one, it's a hard call. Now, I think earlier when we were talking about Julia Hart, there was a few people watching that said that they could see the House of Black take everything at the pay-per-view. I think that would be cool. I am leaning towards, though, retaining for Ricky Starks and Big Bill. They're a weird team, but I think they're working.
Yeah, of all the matches, probably this one, the last one we talked about, I'm like the least excited for. Maybe the previous one's going to be a good match in the ring, at least 75% of the time, and this match should be convoluted and kind of confusing, and Rick Knox should be looking confused, as the ref to try and find out who the legal man is. Very AEW special. But yeah, this type of match is there to protect House of Black, protect FTR, and retain for Starks and Big Bill. And I think we all know who's gonna. If there's 8 people in this match, who's the most likely to eat the pin? There it's Dralistico. So that seems to be the way it's gonna go. Big Bill, Ricky retain, and hopefully a fun 10, 12-minute match.
The only thing that makes me falter on that is if Kenny and Jericho win the previous match, I cannot see Ricky Starks wanting to work with Jericho again. Yeah. I think he would have to have like a section in his contract that's like, this is a 1 match thing, like just one and done match. But yeah, I think just like the number of teams in it, with the House of Black and FTR being like the more top tier teams in there, this is one of those matches you've got so many men in that it's just so easy for the champions to retain. And I think that's what's going to happen. Okay, we got 2 matches left. And let's go there's one that we have to do last. So I'm not going to save the best to last. I'm going to talk about the one I'm most excited for now. Hangman Page versus Swerve Strickland. I think that AEW is at its best when we have Hangman Page doing great stuff, like a strong Hangman Page. And, you know, it was Full Gear 2 years ago where he won the AEW Championship. And this, when he started the feud with Swerve, like that was exactly the feud I wanted for these two guys. Like Swerve is my other like young prospect in there that I would, you know, put the future of the company on. I love Swerve, and I thought him and Hangman were great. I thought the home invasion was bloody stupid, but I think that they kind of realized that that was stupid, and I think like what we got on Dynamite was really good. Hangman just talking and Swerve not even saying anything. And it's odd to say that, yes, Swerve did great when he didn't even respond. But I think the way they did that segment was really good. Prince Nana just has like a place in my heart, maybe in yours too, with the Ring of Honor connection. But I love this. I'm finding it so hard to predict who's going to win, though, because I thought the Texas Death Match would be the third and final match in the series. Where do we go from here? So why don't you tell me what you think about how these two are doing while I like mull over who I think is going to win this and what could go on next?
Yeah, I agree with you. This is my most anticipated match on the card for all the reasons you laid out. I think we're, you know, me and you are even on Swerve and our excitement for him.
Yeah.
I think Adam Page needs to be booked correctly. He's another guy I think WWE would utilize in a better situation, like just consistently book and tell a longer term story with a character like this, right? This is what Adam Page is the best at, is getting that baby face, reaction against a guy who's doing great heel work, right? This is not the hardest formula in the world in wrestling. And it is so effective, and it still is, and that's why it's so effective in this moment. So, it's something that I would probably open the show with. You know, it's a death match, so do you really want to open the show with that? I don't know, but this and the world title are the two most important matches on the card. And, you know, if I'm booking, you know, wrestler A and wrestler B, to me, the babyface has to go over. But in this situation with Page and Swerve, I feel like Swerve needs this win so much. Like he's been in really good stories, but he's always come up on the wrong side of this. And I think he needs to win a huge match on a pay-per-view to bolster him to that next spot in the division, right? If MJF wins the main event, like MJF needs some top tier heels to go against, and an MJF and Swerve feud, I think, can be incredible. And Hangman can lose and still do other stuff. And I don't think it hurts him as much as a former champion, as a guy who's lost a lot and come back. So like the meta of it, the interpersonal stuff makes me want to go Swerve. But Hangman should win based on booking principles. Yeah. Does it really matter either way? I don't know. But also like a heel losing a match like this hurts more so than a babyface, right? Because there's so much that can come into play. Swerve can have other people run in. It does not seem like Kenny or the Bucks are going to come in and help him. Obviously, Dark Order's not going to come in and help Page. So it seems kind of like the dumb heel principle if he doesn't come in and cheat. So I'm going to go with Swerve. I want it to be Swerve. I think no matter what, this match is going to be incredible. And I think the sky's the limit for both of these guys in 2024.
I'm going to go with Hangman. I think Texas Death Match, I want to be like Hangman's signature match. So I want him to win this, put them out like 1-1 in the feud. And then the next match they have, I think should be something really crazy based on the famous Lucha Underground match that Swerve did. That was super. What was I can't remember the exact name of that match when he was kill shot. And it was like, it was wild. Some of like the wildest stuff I've seen. So I can see them like Swerve picking a match for their third one that's more like, okay, Texas Death Match, you know, I did your kind of cowboy thing, but now you're going to enter like my type of match, and it's something just completely wild, or maybe a cage match or something like that. But I think either way, this is going to be, like, for me, the match of the night. For me, it's the one I'm most excited about. I've just been loving their feud, even even if there's been some missteps. Like, it was funny, like they did the home invasion stuff, and it was so out of place, because this feud started with Swerve saying to Hangman, if I had had the opportunities that you had, I would be champion. I wouldn't be where you are. Him calling him out in that way, basically calling him like a privileged but lazy person that's been handed lots of stuff. And it was more, felt like it was Hangman, trying to get back to where he was, like trying to prove himself. So the other stuff of, like, I'm going to go into your home and stand over your baby and whatever, it just feels like something from another feud, like from another feud that they could have done, where you do the, like, family stuff, stalker stuff, involve your wife stuff. This was more like something that I think a lot of people watching could probably relate to. Someone who feels like they have not got the opportunities that they deserve because of different, like, the way society works, how unfair things are sometimes. And then you see this other guy that you feel like's just been handed stuff, and then you also feel like he's not making the most of it, like. And I think that was such a good, real storyline that people could connect to. And I think that when we got back to them just promoing against each other, and like Hangman talking to Swerve and getting like that fire under him on Dynamite, I was like, yeah, like that's what I want to see from this feud. Like, that's where I think it's good. But yeah, I think it's going to be Hangman to win this one. But either way, it's good.
That's what's a great match, great feud, right? This is like, AEW and WWE, all wrestling. You can guess like 95% of the time where it's going to go, unless it's like a random swerve that makes no sense.
Yeah.
This is one of the matches where it could go either way, and it's fine for that reason. And it's, it'd be great if all 9 matches were built to this capacity, but then nothing would feel super important. So, yeah. This is really well built. More of this AEW over the long term. I think they'd be in a really, really good spot. Will be in a really good spot.
Yeah. This Swerve Lucha Underground match, it was like a 2 out of 3 falls match where they went through, like, it got worse and worse, the different stages. And I can see them doing something like that on AEW. That'd be super cool. All right, Tyler, are you ready for the main event?
I am.
MJF, the champion, versus the man that carries around the belt, and my favorite wrestler, even though I'm an unbiased journalist, Jay White. Do you want to start, Tyler, on what you think about MJF and Jay White's feud so far?
Yeah. So first of all, in wrestling, I hate the guy who's not the champion carrying around the belt.
Yes.
I think it's a dumb story, no matter who's doing it. It to me has felt like Tony Khan wanting to see him walk around with the belt just on TV to see how it looks, which is like so weird that I fully believe it to be true. No reporting there, but that just kind of my like, does this look good? Like where you're making like a Canva. It's like, hey, does this look any good? Like, yeah, that's what, which is not a good reason to do it. Mm-hmm. So that's been there. Obviously, same thing like you talked about the Swerve and Hangman thing, like a bad bump in the road with the juice and the quarter thing. Mm-hmm. So go past that, and I think again this week on Dynamite, at least MJF in the main event during the promo, kind of did his mission statement on why he's a babyface, why he's done what he's done, why he wants to win. It's been all the convoluted stuff you talked about with the Golden Jets, right? It's MJF fighting people on every front, zooming Adam Cole and seeing how he's doing, talking about that, and having a million things going on instead of focusing on, hey, this is my belt, I'm going to win it back, I'm their scumbag, etc. It's gone to a more simple story. So I think it's rounded into form. I would give it probably a C of a feud from a build to it. If you take out, obviously, I want to see Jay White and MJF wrestle for 30 minutes. I think it's going to be incredible. Mm-hmm. I think I would love to see Jay White win here. I think AEW could use that shakeup. I think MJF on the chase for a long period of time is something that's super interesting to me. You can still do the MJF Swerve feud if you wanted to after this. And if you just look at like the roster of like top end baby faces, top end heels, like just the list that Jay White can go up against for the next 6 months if Paige wins or doesn't win, whatever. Paige, Kenny, I had this whole list earlier today. So we've been talking a lot of wrestling today, but you just look through the list like Danielson and there's a million people, right? And then we look on the heel side that MJF has not taken on yet. It's a little more lacking in my opinion, unless you build someone up. Minus a Swerve, that's the one I really want to go to. But in Ricky Starks too, that story's there, but I just don't think that's going to be the best feud of all time. All that being said, I think MJF is going to win here. It just seems like you alluded to earlier. There's a pay-per-view in Long Island. Feels like a good reason to have him be the champion. I fully think MJF re-signed whenever he came back at Double or Nothing 2022, right? Or is that when he left? He came back at All Out in 2022. Yeah, because he came back and then Brawl Out happened.
Yeah.
So that was All Out 2022. I fully think he re-signed. I don't think he's going to go up until December 30th and then leave the company, lose the championship to Samoa Joe. So I think it'd be a great time to transition. Same thing with Julia Hart, maybe the Bucks turning heel, Swerve winning. All those things would be a pivot of direction of the company that gives us some excitement. But I think MJF is going to win because I know Tony Khan. And I don't think Jay White is going to win here because he's just, you got to kind of lose that first feud, it seems like, in AEW too. MJF's done it. Hangman did it. Guys that are not fully established in Tony Khan's mind as top draws kind of lose the first one. So for all that reason, I'm going to go with MJF, but it hurts my heart.
I think it hurts me even more. I've said Jay is my guy. I would love more than anything for him to win it. I have not been a fan of the MJF title reign at all. I would think that him losing the belt and new champion would really shake things up. Like looking at what Vasco is saying here, like I like that everyone wanted the belt. It made it feel more important. The belt has felt really important in recent weeks and people talking about it, like Samoa Joe, Wardlow, all that. But then at the same time, it's not important enough for like MJF to actually find a way to physically take this belt off Jay White, this physical belt, And I do think that all the stuff going on, not the guys alluding to like I want the title, like that's cool, Wardlow, Joe, but this Adam stuff, Kingdom stuff that I really haven't liked, I think has taken away from Jay's feud. It's taken away from the focus being on Jay because it seems like the forefront of MJF's mind is always like Adam and Roddy Strong coming in, and then Jay is like a little villain that just like pops up on his shoulder like, by the way, I've got your belt and we're having this massive match. It doesn't feel like the most important thing in MJF's mind. And we'll get on later to like the devil stuff, but he's thinking about that too. And I mean, the devil attacked Jay White and Jay obviously didn't even feel it. Like he was back next week. He wasn't even bothered, that was interesting. So I would love Jay to see win, and very much I would love to see like a refresh of stuff because I'm not been a fan of MJF on top, but I don't think that's going to happen. I think he's going to stick around. I think he's re-signed. If he hasn't re-signed, Tony's wild for putting this belt on him and giving him so much like TV time and whatever. That's a heck of a choice. But I think maybe it's just that I feel like we could have had something greater with MJF's title run if we didn't get into all the cold stuff. But yeah, I think MJF's retaining. We have a super chat here from Jamal. Thank you so much. Jamal sends $9.99 to say, my prediction is the devil comes out in the middle of MJF and Gunn's match to be his tag partner and uses other people's finishers to tease his identity. So Tyler, since we've both decided that MJF is winning this match, shall we do a bit of who is the devil talk? And what do you think of Jamal's idea? I think that's quite a fun idea if he came out as the tag partner. I do think that he could tease other people's finishers, but I also think that once you see a guy move, it becomes more obvious who they are, like move in the ring. So I don't know if they'd want to give away who the devil is that soon. But who do you think? And do you think we're going to find out at Full Gear?
Yeah. First of all, I love the booking by Jamal here. You almost have to do like someone, let's say it's two people that are of equal height. You almost have to have the other person go out and like have their movement to throw people off. So everyone's tweeting out like, okay, this is so-and-so doing a DDT. So it's definitely this person. Because then it's like the story is like, hey, it was this person because they did DDT this way. It's like, well, it's someone under a mask. Like it's whoever we decide once the mask comes off. So that'd be a fun way to tell that story and keep the intrigue throughout the show. Yeah. But yeah, from the devil perspective, I mean, you know, if we're handicapping this, like it's got to be like 90% Adam Cole. And to me, the other 10% is, I don't know, 8% Jungle Boy and 2% Wardlow, even though the guy's way too big to be Wardlow, at least from the original incarnation in person. I certainly don't think it's CM Punk. No. That would be absolutely insane. But yeah, those are like the three. But I think it's Cole or Jungle Boy is like a dark horse candidate. I have not really wavered from that. Just because it's like crazy, and Tony Khan would seem to want to not reward is maybe not the right word, but give a push to the intrigue of Jungle Boy coming back in that capacity. And also, I think that was almost 1 month after the incident with Punk, which would align with the suspension that the Elite had against Punk. Yeah. So that's the only reason I say that. And they're both tiny. So.
Well, if they do bad buckshot lariat, it's Punk. In the most respectful way, do you actually care? Like, do you think they've done enough to make you really care who's under this mask?
No, definitely not. I mean, it's been besides the physical intrigue of, I guess, beating up the Acclaimed. Yeah. Right. But like besides that, just someone raising their head in a black background. It's felt like a vignette, WWE style, where I've got Emelina coming in for a year and a half, and then she premieres, and we see one match, and then she's buried again. Right. It feels like that level of character that I'm supposed to care about. You know, I'm always open to like at the back end of it, did it work? Yeah. You know, but I don't think it is, you know, Cole. It seems so obvious that it's Cole. So if that happens, it feels like, okay, well, obviously we all knew what it was, so this is fine. You know, if it's MJF doing some crazy heel turn, that was him all along, and he beat up the Acclaimed and all that stuff, and somehow it's him under there, even though he made you think it wasn't. Like, more of our convoluted MJF stuff, which seems possible. So, and then if it's Jungle Boy, it's like, okay, so you're just like, why would you do this, Jungle Boy? And I know he's not going to get on the mic in the middle of the ring and explain it well enough.
But why did Jungle Boy do any of the things he did in the past couple of months?
I mean, that was the only thing of like someone on one of our shows, they said like, well, they threw Anthony Bones through the glass, so it's certainly Jungle Boy, right? As like an homage to him. I was like, man, if that's it, that is some petty stuff. And I'm CM Punk, I'm probably using that in a lawsuit to get my full salary remainder. So the Cole thing makes the most sense. It feels on the nose, but that's fine in wrestling. And it is what it is. I don't think that would be very good. Yeah. That version of the Kingdom feels like B-level group. Like House of Black feel like a cooler group. Don Callis family, if the Young Bucks turn, feels like a cooler group than the Kingdom. So it feels like a bad use of Adam Cole, but that's my pick. How about you?
I don't think that they've earned us even talking about the devil that much. I don't think it's been well planned out. It was so funny when the Acclaim got beat up, and I think it was Excalibur was like, the devil beats up anyone that gets close to MJF, and it's like, does he? Like, really? Like, you know, like that's not what we've been seeing on TV. We've been seeing this guy like Flash, and you know, he beat up Jay, didn't affect Jay. Then there was the Acclaim beat up. So I think it's probably MJF, to be honest. And I think that's going to be like a bad reveal. The Jungle Boy thing, I actually think I'd like that the best, right? Because it's like out of left field. But I think with everything that's happened, you know, in real life, Crimea River, all that, what if, because I thought that the Jungle Boy's pivot, Jack Perry, his pivot into being a heel was like really bad. And he was always one of those baby faces where when they actually did promos, I was like, I'm not sure if you're giving me baby face energy, but okay, you definitely look it, but I'm actually not sure if you're giving me that kind of energy, and I don't know what that's a comment on, but maybe it was quite an astute observation given like his real life actions. So maybe he just comes back and is like, yeah, I'm an asshole, I'm the devil, I did all this, and like it plays into like A, he was a heel before he left, and B, we all know what happened in real life. So yeah. Fernando says Wardlow. I don't think that body type looks like Wardlow at all. Like obviously they can change bodies about and they can do whatever they want. Like they can put anyone under that mask, but I think Wardlow is, his size is so unique that if it was going to be him, I think it would have to look like him.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, that's just more like retconning, especially the initial Devil that in person was like a Adam Cole or a Jungle Boy body type.
Yeah,
not even an MJF body type, right? Because he's got kind of the male V, the big shoulders to the skinny waist thing. So, and those guys are just skinny, short guys. So, which is fine. I don't really care. Wardlow to me would be the least intriguing of the options that we've presented. And that's just because like we haven't seen him, and why would I, as a viewer who watches a lot, why would I think that Wardlow can be like the leader of a heel group? And do I think Tony Khan is going to trust him to have matches not against either other big guys or jobbers? Because that's all the big guys in AEW they're all allowed. That's the only matches they're allowed to have.
Yeah.
Tony Khan. So
I think like final thing on Wardlow, like they just have to explain more of his story, because we as, people that read reports know why he'd be mad at MJF. But if you're just a fan, I mean, the last thing you saw was him beating up MJF and MJF getting stretched out in Las Vegas over a year ago. So it's kind of like in storyline, what's your beef? Final prediction, who is this signing, acquisition, new person coming in that Tony's teasing that we all respect? Who do you think it's going to be?
Are we going to mention reports? I don't know if Sean has reported it.
Mention any reports you like, Tyler.
Okay. I don't know. Was that Sean on the chat here? I don't know if Sean's actively watching, but if he wants to drop it in.
Always watching.
That'd be great, Sean, if you could do that. But I mean, it's been reported it's Will Ospreay from a couple of sources. None, not Sean, not Dave, not Wade. As far as I can tell, those are kind of the guys I trust.
Was it Andrew Zarian that reported it?
Which is not someone who's not trustworthy, but I just like confirmation from the big three, or one of the big three. So that makes sense. I mean, we were talking on our show earlier today on Brass Ring Media that like Nick Nemeth would like fit that capacity from a Tony Khan explanation of like worst case scenario, right? Of the Tony Khan announcement going off the rails.
Yeah.
Of like, so that was like our like prep everyone worst case scenario. Mercedes also seemed to make sense, but it seems like she's not going to sign anywhere until 2024.
Yeah, so, I would love Mercedes, but I feel like Mercedes has been ruled out by those that would know. Yeah.
So I certainly hope it's Ospreay, because that's kind of like a guy we've seen. It feels like a big deal, but it covers the announcement by Tony Khan. I say that's an appropriate announcement what we saw, and that would be a good step for him. If it's like a Nick Nemeth, I mean, I don't know. We might never be able to come back from something like that. So a small part of me wants to see the chaos that would ensue with him coming out. But I think it's Ospreay, and he could be the devil. Who knows? Maybe he signs and he reveals that he was the devil all along. So.
I think it's probably Ospreay. My pals at Wrestle Culture, What Culture today convinced me that it could be Ronda. And Ronda's last WWE run wasn't good. It wasn't good. She seemed checked out, like she could not be bothered. And like there's a lot of stuff we could say about Ronda, but to just look at her as a wrestler, a wrestling character, I do think that she's done some indie appearances working with Marina Shafir. She was just with Billy Starks and Athena. She seems happy in the ring now, and she didn't seem happy during like this last run in WWE. And I could totally see, like, given her relationship with Marina and them working together and stuff, her actually wanting to come into to AEW. So that's an outside bet though. you know, if I wanted to put some outside money on someone that's not Will Ospreay, but I do think it's probably Will Ospreay. And if so, that would live up to expectations. He is someone that, you know, everyone wants to see in AEW, respects him as a worker. So yeah, but I mean, look, when Ospreay and Mercedes are the two number one names being, you know, bantered about by fans, if you deliver anything less, it's bad. So if this isn't Ospreay or Mercedes, no offense to whoever it is, I would have made them just be a surprise rather than saying like days before that you're going to have a surprise. I think, yeah.
I think Ronda, if that is the case too, would fit the bill. People probably wouldn't be excited about it, but it would fit the like, yeah, everyone knows who she is.
Yeah.
You know, even wrestling, she didn't wrestle much in UFC, right? She was more of a striker. So the thing of like a world-renowned wrestler would be probably a stretch. But you know, she's more of a judo, or she's black belt in judo. So, but it would fit more so those three even. But I think people would be less excited. So, but yeah, that's we'll see what happens. Christian Cage is the prime example of like, yeah, I thought John Cena was going to walk through that door or something. You know, I love Christian. He's been a great run right now, but man, that was something.
That was something. Well, that's it, Tyler. We've done every single match plus extra.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for joining me. It was really great to chat to you about Full Gear. It's always good to talk to you about an AEW show that we can get deep into. Why don't you tell everyone about Wrestling Media and everything that you and Zach do on your awesome site?
Yeah, thank you. So Zach Haydorn and I were formerly of PW Torch. We had the YouTube page for a long time. We also do a weekly show for SE Scoops. But me and him have our own shop called Brass Ring Media. You can search that on Twitter or on Patreon. We do it's $4 a month. We do free or extra shows for patrons. Our Substack is great. Zach and I write all the time on that sort of stuff. So just check us out. We also have a YouTube page, so we do free stuff on there. If you have never seen Zach and I interact or talk wrestling, you can check us out there. It's like Stephanie and I, right? Like,
yeah,
pretty balanced, and we down the middle. We're trying to be too biased, but we'll tell you our opinion and not sugarcoat it. And like all wrestling, I think you're the same way, Steph. Like we treat it like a TV show we watch that never ends, right? It's about characters. It's about the in-ring action. It's not so much about one or the other. It's a collective thing. So Zach and I do that same thing. And you know, when we were on the Torch, you were a regular on there as well, Stephanie. So thank you for inviting me here on your shiny platform at Fightful.
Yeah, everyone watching, please go check out Brass Ring Media. Give them a follow on Twitter. Follow Tyler at Ring of Tyler. Check out their Substack and subscribe to their YouTube because I watch their YouTube. I absolutely love it. I've worked with Zach and Tyler a lot in the past, and they are like my two favorite guys to work with. Like I'm so glad I got to meet Zach in Chicago after like listening to him on the Torch for so long, and then it got me like working with him and working with you. And so guys, if you've enjoyed the show, like please go and show Brass Ring Media like so much love because they are a new site, a new startup, and this is like Zach and Tyler, you know, doing this for themselves, and it's, you know, absolutely awesome. And I know you guys are only going to keep growing. And thank you so much for coming on. You're always one of my favorite people to talk wrestling with.
Same here, Stephanie.
And guys, if you want to follow me, you can go follow me at Stephanie M. Chase on Twitter, Instagram. Next week is a huge wrestling week for me. I'm going to a lot of things. So if you want to, you know, see what's going on, any like tidbits I can bring you, go follow me, Twitter, Instagram, my YouTube channel at Stephanie Chase Wrestling. I have a podcast. It's called The Bechtel Hold. I talk about wrestling, review it, but it's a woman's opinion on what's going on in this world. I want to thank you all that are watching. Some of you had like great comments. Thank you, like Marcus, Fernando, Maria, everyone that was in the chat and keeping it active. I love that. Jamal, who sent the super chat, Vasco, all of you, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. And I will be back next week on Fightful with another guest to do Survivor Series predictions. So start thinking about those now. But for now, thank you again, Tyler. Thank you, everyone watching. Enjoy Full Gear this weekend. And bye.